What is going on, Titans? How is everybody doing? It is me, Summit, here, trying to give you guys a little bit more information, talking about some of the great new stuff that's on the horizon. Some things, obviously, like Last Block that just came out that we are super duper excited to tell you more on. Talk about some of those mechanics, maybe some of the questions that you guys have had in regards to what's going on with Last Block, how it works, things like that. I do want to start off by saying good morning, good afternoon, good night for those of you around the world who are kind of joining in on this. I'm super excited to talk about all this Last Block stuff and answer some questions that you guys have had. I know we also just had our Last Block guessing competition, which was super exciting. So happy to talk a little bit about that. But I'd say let's dive into the competition first. Now, for those of you who are not watching this live or who won't be watching this and won't know you're a winner, don't worry. I will get an announcement up, and we'll be talking about who those winners are. Now, for those not aware about that competition, it was a guessing game to see who would be the closest to what is Last Block, and the other option was maybe it was the most creative one. Maybe it wasn't close, but you guys just put the most effort into figuring out what Last Block was. And we actually have two winners that we did select already. One is from our Telegram group chat, and the other one is from our Discord. So I I don't butcher me on some of the names, but the two winners that we have are Richard Smith from Telegram and Steve with the 5 from Discord. Don't worry, we will be getting that over to you and contacting you guys, also putting up those announcements so that you guys can see and celebrate and be victorious in your guessing and most creative. Richard Smith had an incredible creative video, in-depth stuff, and Steve really pretty much just hit it on the tee when it came to what was going on with Last Block. But without further ado, I think a lot of people are here in regards to what is Last Block, questions, feedback, all that type of information there. And that's really what we want to kind of dive into. So we'll kind of talk about the mechanics of the game, a lot of the questions that have come up in regards to the game, and then dive into some feedback. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about general questions that we've seen around the community, give you guys a little information on what's in the works, things like that. So yeah, let's get started. So as far as Last Block is our brand new PvP DeFi game that has just come out. Super exciting. You battle for the last block. So you are competing to be pretty much the last man standing. Now, as far as PvP, the element is not like a battle royale. You're not going in, or putting any blocks together. You're essentially trying to be the last person to put a block into the actual, game there. Now, what this means is you are spending 5,000 Titano tokens to purchase one block. That one block is then kind of like a ticket, if you want to think about it, towards victory on there. If you want to make it a little bit more related to things that you might know, think of it kind of like an eBay auction. You have a item that you're looking to get, and you are constantly bidding and bidding and bidding and bidding to see who is the last person who bids on it. That might be a little bit of an easier way to think about it there. But that is kind of the general consensus, is you are purchasing these blocks in order to be the last person to have that block. Now, you can have one block, you can have 1,000 blocks. It does not matter. Whoever is the person that's holding that last block when the timer runs out is going to be the person who wins the jackpot. We're going to dive more in depth on all of that, though. Just kind of wanted to give a basic rundown of what the game is and kind of lead it into where we're going next. So let's talk about the basic mechanics and kind of go into how Last Block works. So like I said, you are purchasing blocks using your Titano tokens. Now, with Last Block, you pay 5,000 tokens, you get your one block. It does not matter at what phase you get these blocks. You can get it at phase 1, you can get it at phase 3, you can get it at phase 6. It does not matter at what phase. It's just going to be, hey, you want to purchase blocks so that you have a chance to win. Now, there is a jackpot. That jackpot is gotten by putting those blocks in. Everybody putting their blocks in. It's putting Titano into that jackpot prize. And the more blocks that are in there, the higher the grand prize. The bigger the grand prize, the more that you're going to want to win that grand prize. That jackpot is broken into a distribution. Okay. 50%. So essentially, anytime somebody's putting their money in, 50% goes to the last block jackpot prize. 30% goes towards the burn wallet, which is immediate. If you actually look at the burn wallet, you will see constant transactions going to that burn wallet. 10% of the value goes to the royalty system, which we will talk about as well. 5% of the value goes to the referral system, which we'll talk more about. And 5% goes to the rollover prize, which again, we will talk more about. That is the distribution. You can find that information on the white paper as well through our FAQs on Discord and posted around on Telegram as well. But that is going to be the distribution of how the entries of blocks go in on that. Now, I have seen a few questions on the jackpot prize, that grand prize there. So I just wanted to answer a few of those. One is there a maximum prize pool? There is not. That prize pool can keep going up and up and up. So you will have no limit to what that prize pool can be as long as people keep putting blocks and Titano into it. Another question that I've seen is, what is the rollover prize? And what that is like I was saying, how a percentage of the tokens is distributed. A certain percentage of those tokens, it's going to be 5% of the prize pool gets allocated towards the future prize pool. So once the game ends, that rollover prize will be used to start the next game. So that next game will have already, I think right now it's about $1,500 to start off the game. Now, another question that I've seen as well is, once the game ends, does another begin? And the answer is yes. Once that game ends, another game will begin pretty much immediately after. I know a big question has been, with the game, with the jackpot, are we worried about bots? That is something that's been thought about. We have measures put into the system to counteract things like that. And we do checks to make sure that everything is legitimate. Can't go too much into it. Don't want to give the secret sauce, but just know that we have thought about that and are aware of that situation there. So we don't anticipate to have any botting, which is great. But that's just a few of the jackpot questions. Let's dive more into each individual mechanic, which I think people have a lot of questions on. So let's first talk about blocks. As far as blocks go, you can go to the gamepad. You can purchase up to about 10,000 blocks at a time, which is a lot of blocks. If you're buying 10,000 at the first go, man, props to you. But you can go ahead and buy however many blocks you want. It is 5,000 tokens, like we said, for one block. Now, those blocks are the key to the game, okay? The more blocks that you have, the more royalties you get. The blocks are always going to be the same price across the same phases. But those are the key to the game. Like I was saying, you can acquire blocks at any point in time. Okay, so you can get it in phase 1, you can get it in phase 3, you can get it in phase 6. It does not matter. It's the same price, but you can get them at any point in time. Now, as far as the blocks, a few things to keep in mind is blocks are non-refundable. Once you purchase a block, that is it. You've purchased using your Titano because, like I said, automatically gets burned every time that you're purchasing that block, and that block also goes towards funding the prize pool. There is no maximum amount of blocks that are that you can get, so you can just keep acquiring more and more and more blocks. You don't have to have a limit. The blocks are good for the entirety of all the phases. What that means is that you will still see your total block count from phase 1 through phase 6, but once the game ends, everything resets to 0. Those blocks don't transfer over to the next game. It's just staying within the phase 1 through phase 6 of that specific round. You can always check how many blocks you have by going to the statistics in the game menu, in the very top left-hand corner. You can just click that little button there, and it'll let you know how many blocks you have. From there, you can also see the minimum required royalties, how many rewards or royalties that you're going to get, and things like that, which I really think leads us into the next point, which is royalties. I think a lot of people have questions about royalties, how they work, as far as feedback to them. So let's talk a little bit in depth on what royalties are. So royalties are essentially a passive income reward that is given for people who hold a certain amount of blocks. Now, each phase, okay, has a minimum set of blocks to acquire before you get royalties. Phase 1 will have 20 blocks, phase 2 will be 40, phase 3 is 60, phase 4 is 80, phase 5 is 100, and phase 6 is 120 blocks. Okay, what that means is if you have 20 blocks in phase 1, you will receive royalties for that first phase. Okay. Now, those royalties are calculated based off of what the grand prize is. How many blocks do you have in? So, the more that you have, the more rewards you'll get. How many more people are entering? If more people enter, you'll get more rewards as well. And that's how that is calculated there. Now, let's say we go to phase 2 and you only have 20 blocks. Your royalty rewards will pause. Okay. You will have to get 40 blocks total in order to resume getting your royalty rewards. That means if you had 20 blocks in phase 1 and you want to get royalties in phase 2, you're going to need to purchase an additional 20 blocks in order to get a total of 40 blocks. The same thing goes with, let's say you had 20 blocks in phase 1 and you want to re-enter and get royalty rewards in phase 3, which is 60 blocks. You would need to purchase an additional 40 blocks to unpause your royalty rewards and continue getting those royalty rewards. So you just have to have a total amount of the minimum blocks. So whatever the minimum is, you just have to have that many blocks total. You don't have to purchase additional blocks. So if you bought 20 blocks in phase 1 and you're in phase 4, which is 80 blocks, you don't have to buy 80 blocks. You just have to buy 60 just to get to that total minimum requirement. Now, like I said, those are non-refundable. Those end at the end of the game. If you were to buy, 120 blocks at phase 1, you would get everything from phase 1 through phase 6, and you're just accumulating rewards the entire time. But if you just wanted to do the minimum to get per phase, you can just follow that minimum guide in order to get those royalty rewards. Now, as far as claiming your rewards, if you go to that same statistics menu within the game, you'll also see an option that says withdraw royalties. This, of course, is after connecting your wallet and seeing everything there. And you'll be able to take out all of the royalties on there. Now, as far as royalties, we've definitely heard a lot of feedback and a lot of questions in regards to them. Some people have been asking, is there a way to potentially get lower royalties, even though I don't, buy the minimum? Things like that. We're looking into different ways to improve upon that, maybe giving lower royalty rewards and such, just as a kind of like, hey, you were part of the phase 1, although you didn't buy up to phase 2. We'll maybe give you a little something here, but nothing official yet. We're still collecting a lot of data and a lot of feedback on that. But you can still claim your royalties at any point throughout the game. Go in there, withdraw royalties. They just pause if you don't hit that minimum requirement. So if you had bought in phase 1 and phase 2 and you're on phase 4 now, you can still go ahead and collect all the royalties from phase 1 and phase 2. You just aren't going to be getting any royalties from phase 3 and phase 4. Just remember that if you do 120 blocks in phase 1, you're collecting all of your royalties from phase 1 until whatever phase the game goes to. A few more things to talk about rewards. I have seen a few people that are going, hey, I'm not getting any more rewards. I don't see anything in my wallet. Make sure to refresh your wallet, refresh the page. Sometimes your wallet disconnects and doesn't show anything in there. Other times it's as simple as you just don't have enough blocks and your blocks were on pause. So just make sure that you're getting up to that minimum block count. The only disclaimer we have to give people is once the game ends, you cannot claim your royalty rewards anymore. So if the game completes, whether, at the very end and you didn't claim anything, all of those royalty rewards get set to 0. We have heard feedback on that for people wanting to extend that or give a brief time in between. We're looking into that, taking that into account. But as of now, if the game does end, you do lose your royalty rewards. Another question that I have seen is, if you claim your royalty rewards at any point in time, does that mean you continue to get rewards? What will happen if you claim your rewards is that's like zeroing out how many blocks you have. So if you have 80 blocks and you just claimed your rewards, and let's say you took 40, you had $40 in rewards and you claimed them, you have claimed your rewards for those 80 blocks. Okay. So if you want to continue getting rewards, royalty rewards past that, you would need to purchase additional blocks to get you back up to that minimum. Since you've claimed your rewards, you have put those blocks aside. Now you need to purchase additional blocks to continue getting more rewards. So the only time systematically that you will not get rewards is if A, you do not meet that minimum amount of blocks per phase, or B, you withdraw your rewards and need to repurchase blocks in order to continue getting rewards. Don't worry, I'm also keeping an eye on the chat. I've seen a few of you ask things, so please throw more questions in chat as we go along. But till now, I'm just kind of going to keep going through it and want to touch on some of the phases, because I believe a lot of questions are coming in regards to the phases as well. Now, as far as the phases go, there are 6 phases. Each phase has a different number of blocks in it, a different time frame, and a different add time function to it. Now, with the first couple phases, you'll notice that they're a lot longer. For example, phase 1 is 24 hours, and every time somebody buys a block, it's 15 minutes added to the timer on that. Whereas, for example, phase 4 is 3 hours with 9 minutes added. Now, let's go in depth and kind of talk about these phases so it's a lot more easier to understand, and hopefully is easier so that you guys can play a little bit better. For phase 1, you have a number of blocks that go to the next phase. Okay, that's 3,125 blocks. The countdown is 24 hours, and the add time function is 15 minutes. Now, what that means is, in order for phase 1 to go to phase 2, there needs to be 3,125 blocks purchased before it can go to phase 2. So if 3,125 blocks are not purchased, it will stay in phase 1, which means if the countdown clock goes from 24 hours to 0 in phase 1, and there has not been that threshold met to take it to phase 2, the game will end in phase 1. So that's why purchasing it within any phase could actually mean that you could win in any phase. The game will end if that countdown clock reaches 0. So if it doesn't make it to the next phase, somebody doesn't buy a block within that phase, the game will end in whatever phase it is if that countdown clock reaches 0. Now, that is keeping you on your toes. I personally believe that we will see phase 6 in our first round here. But let's go through quickly all the phases, just so we can kind of talk about them. So phase 1, we've already gone through. Phase 2 is 6,250 blocks with a 12-hour max time and 13 minutes for every new block. Phase 3 is 12,500 blocks with a 6-hour max time and 11 minutes for every new block added. Phase 4 is 25,000 blocks with a 3-hour max time and 9 minutes for every new block that's added. Phase 5 is 50,000 blocks with a 2-hour max time, 7 minutes added for every new block. And phase 6 that's the final phase. It can't go any farther than this. It's a 1-hour max time, unlimited amount of blocks. And for every new block that's added, it adds 5 minutes. Now, as far as the time frame goes, you could still be in phase 6, although it's a 1-hour max time. You can still be in phase 6 for quite some time. What does that mean? So although the 1 hour is the max time, that is the maximum amount of time the counter can get to. So let's say we get to 30 minutes and somebody buys another block. It goes to 35 minutes. Okay. If somebody buys another block, it could go to 40 minutes or 45, 50, 55 minutes. And then it goes to an hour. But let's say we're at 1 hour and somebody buys a block. It cannot go past that 1 hour time. Okay. It is maxed out at that 1 hour time. But people could keep adding blocks, which keeps maxing out the time for that phase. So you could be in phase, 1, for example, which is a 24-hour max time. Maybe there's only 60 blocks at the time, which highly unlikely. But again, we're posing a hypothetical here. Somebody could keep adding a block and adding a block and adding a block in 15 minutes and 15 minutes and keep it in phase 1 for a long time if people don't take part in that game. So that time frame there is the maximum amount of time. And people who add blocks, okay, will just keep pushing it to that maximum amount of time until either A, it moves to the next phase, or B, it runs to 0. So that really is how the phases work there. As far as like phase 6, I've seen a lot of questions on phase 6. It's supposed to be, why is it unlimited? Why is it that way? It's supposed to be kind of the last draw standing, throw it all in, see who gets, it's the jackpot one. Okay, it's unlimited blocks because it is that final countdown, that final phase to get excitement around, to build hype around, and things like that. Now, as far as phases go, technically somebody with one block, okay, could win the entire jackpot. So one block, if put at the very end and the counter reaches 0, could win that jackpot. Now, if you have 1,000 blocks, you're just going to, you can keep putting in blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. But one block could win the entire jackpot. So it's really anybody's game. Obviously, the more, Titano that you have, the more Titano you're putting into the game, the better chance you have of winning. It can end, like I said, at any point in time, at any phase, once that counter reaches 0. But remember that phase 6, if we get to phase 6, which again, I believe we will, and people are putting more and more blocks and it keeps going, that is a lot of tokens burned, a lot of token burns if we stay in phase 6. But it also means that prize, that jackpot, is going to go up and up and up and up, which is going to be awesome for that person who comes in at the last second. Now, that's really, I think, the general idea of how the phases work. It's really good to get in those early phases to get those royalty rewards. That's probably the biggest benefit. And also because you never really know when that phase is going to end or that game is going to end. So it could end, like I said, in phase 2. It could end in phase 3. It could go all the way to phase 6. You don't know. So being within any of those phases has an equal chance of winning on that. As far as the phases go, there is no winner after each phase. So phase 1 through 6, because it's not necessarily a end of a game, it's just changing the game rules depending on how much volume there is. There isn't a winner at the end of each phase. However, if you do have royalty rewards and blocks that meet the minimum requirement, you will continue to accumulate those royalty rewards from whatever phase you purchase the minimum amount until whatever you have the minimum amount phase in. That's a lot of the phase questions that are in regards there. I think we'll talk more about like phases, royalty rewards, values, and stuff like that. But the last thing I really wanted to touch on was referral program. For those of you who haven't used it yet, same menu where you have the statistics after you enter the game, you'll actually be given a referral link. That referral link will allow other people to take part in the game. Once those people purchase blocks, you will then get rewards from it that you can use to get more blocks and things like that. So it definitely helps. It helps spread the word of the game, helps Titano, and it helps you. So everything and everyone gets helped by taking part in that referral program. So definitely use that to your advantage. Check it out and give it a shot. Now, I do see that there's been some talk in the chat, some feedback, and some questions. So I'm going to quickly go through a few of those. Now, one question is, how are the royalties and rewards paid out? Right now, all of that is paid out in Titano. Okay. So with Titano, you can get a fluctuating price that goes along a little bit with it. I have seen some people talk about BUSD and getting the royalties in BUSD. As of right now, it's in Titano. Definitely will pass that feedback along though, and see what people say on that. Now, another question that I'm seeing is, as far as royalties, I'm not seeing any gain or increase or anything like that. It's just kind of sitting at the same place that it's been. It could potentially be that you're not hitting that minimum threshold. If not, please go ahead and create a ticket or let us know or DM somebody. We're actively looking into any type of issues that are going on with Last Block. So we appreciate that feedback to figure things out. Now, other questions are in regards to like the phases. Like I said, why do we have 6 phases? It really is just to have different levels of the game. Okay. We have phases 1 through 6 to have different levels. Now, those levels are determined, like we said, based on how many, blocks that are currently in the game. And of course, purchasing more blocks adds to the maximum countdown timer and things like that. That is a majority of Last Block. I'm quickly going to go through and read some of the chat messages in here and see what you guys are saying, because I want to make sure that I answer as much as I possibly can for you guys. Let's see here. I think a game idea is great. Only question I have is, do you think it would be good to reduce all the time of each phase as to time ads? Seems more addictive to have a higher volume of games. I do see what you're understanding, reducing the time frames and things like that to make it a little bit more fast paced. Definitely we'll take that feedback, pass it forward, and see what's going on there. Another thing I see people talking about is royalties. Royalties refresh pretty frequently, but keep in mind that if there are more blocks purchased, okay, and more people meet that minimum threshold, more people are getting royalties. So it's getting divvied up a little bit differently. Think of it kind of like a staking pool. That's the best way to put it. Another thing is that royalty wise, just again, I have to stress it because I really want to make sure everybody knows, because it's been the biggest question, is making sure that you have the minimum amount, because if you do not have that minimum amount, your royalties are paused. You won't be able to get those rewards until you hit that minimum threshold again. Now, let's see here. I'm trying to check to see if any of you guys have any more questions. I know we definitely have feedback that you guys have presented to us. Oh my gosh, not prevented, presented to us, which is great. But I think that's a lot of the questions that people have been asking for. All of these things are going to be updated in the white paper, our FAQs, things like that, to make it more easily readable and understandable. We are fully aware that this game has a learning curve to it. We're actually working with some amazing content creators to get videos up as well that show you step by step on how the game works. Okay, so you'll soon be able to watch a video that's like, hey, this is how you play Last Block. This is how royalties work. This is how the phases work. This is how you get this and this and this. So more videos will come out on that. A lot more information on all of that will be coming out soon. And we are going to completely redo that white paper, like I said, to just make it a lot more easily understandable for all of you guys, adding in those FAQ questions and things like that. But I think that really is a lot of the questions that are in regards to Last Block. We continue to take feedback and we continue to learn from all of this. I mean, the one thing with launching a game is you have to see how it is for a general public release. You can have an internal testing as much as you want, but until you have thousands of people take part in something, you really just don't know how that is going to play out. So please continue to send us feedback, continue to send us any questions that you have so we can update all of that information and get all of that out for you guys. That said, I think we're going to move on to just some quick information in regards to Titano overall, some things in regards to our decks, obviously Switch launch, marketing type of things, and things like that. So quickly, just to let you guys know, Switch is completely on time and on track for the end of the month. A lot of the features, that we've been talking about, Launchpad, farming, things like that. And by a lot of the features, I mean those features will be coming within that launch. So no worries there. Switch is still very much on time, and we're excited to get that pushed out super, super soon. As far as our marketing agency, they've already developed an amazing plan. It's actually going to be working with things with, Last Block, Switch, getting some of those articles out soon, getting out some of that information soon. So we're super excited to really push Titano and all the information that we have out to everybody. So that's going to be very, very, very exciting. And as far as other questions that I've seen and people have asked, it's regards to what about TSP ladders? What about lottery? And I know we've talked about these things as well. TSP ladders does not have an ETA at the moment, but it's still something at the back of our head. We're still looking into it, and we're still thinking of ways that we can add more ladders into the future. Same thing with lottery. We are looking into ways to improve that, to make it a better experience, and to get more people in the lottery. I myself really love lottery. I loved buying those tickets and trying my best to win. And I think it's something that we can reevaluate and change a little bit so that more people can take part in lottery. Other things as well is burns wise. We still collect burns manually from like TSP, Play, BetSwirl, Switch fees, things like that. The only one that currently is going on that's automatic is going to be Last Block. And like I said, you'll see those transactions live. Actually, your transaction will show it being sent immediately to the burn wallet. So every time somebody buys a block, it goes immediately to that burn wallet. But more burns will happen. You'll probably see even greater counts of burns thanks to the massive amount of deflation that we're already seeing from Last Block going through here. I'm keeping, again, like my eyes on the chat here for any questions or concerns or feedback that are going on. I know I had my little spiel of everything that I wanted to go through. So I just want to give you Titans a chance to ask anything to me personally that you may have so that I can answer some questions. I believe that some people have been asking about royalties and things like that. If you go back and watch the live stream or check out the white paper, we've kind of gone through a lot of that information already. So please just give it a little bit of a rewind. And I'll kind of go through information there. But again, it doesn't look like anybody has any other questions. I wanted to keep this a short and nice little Titan talk just to give some information here. Oh, I did see a question. Will Last Block UI change to match the Titano aesthetic? I will say the UI is being worked on to add more animations and exciting new things. Changing it to just be a little bit more fun and exciting, I guess. So expect to see things like that. And I do see another question about weekly burns. The weekly burns that were talked about previously in V1 were slightly different than the ones we have now. So those burns that we're going to be doing now are going to be dependent on our utilities. Now you guys are laying it in all on me, huh? The white paper should be updated very shortly. I would hopefully say today, and if not tomorrow. Other question, any name drops of the coins? I think it's super important to let you guys know that the reason we don't give names for the coins or for who we're working with is simply because there's a process of who gets listed and who doesn't. If we were to say something or divulge information in regards to a certain partnership or listing that doesn't pan through, we wouldn't want to do that. So we want to fully wait to get everything confirmed before making any confirmations on who would be listed. Titano merch. Oh man, guys, the merch question. I do not have any information on merch. I would really love to get some merch as well. But I do not have any information on merch at this time, just because our main focus at the moment is in regards to working towards being deflationary, working towards creating value for everybody, things like that. Another question, will Last Block be integrated into the Switch game section? As of right now, Last Block is on its own website. It could be integrated onto the Switch section once Switch rebrands and relaunches on that. but no information on that one that I can provide just yet. As far as Switch, what it will do differently as compared to the likes of Pancake Swap and things like that. Our main goal is to really be a benefit to people who are listing on us and a benefit to people who are purchasing, which means a different fee structure, a different level of support, things like that. So we want to provide better enticement to come to Switch than Pancake Swap. Like I was saying, what that could mean is you're not paying as high of fees, we're not taking as big of a chunk, maybe we are burning in a different way or things like that. Um, Other questions I'm seeing inside here, kind of the same thing as far as how many projects are being listed, who's being launching with Switch. Again, guys, that's information that I can't provide for you at this moment. I will definitely see if it's something that I can provide or get information on, but it's just not something I can provide at the moment here. Let's see. As far as an exact date for Switch, we do not have an exact set date just yet, but once that set date is there, we will 100% launch it. That really seems to be. I know I kind of like rapid fire because I saw like 8 questions come in on that, but I think I got all those questions there. Um, with that said, I think that concludes a little bit of what we were kind of talking about here at Titan Talk, which is the mechanics of everything, questions and feedback that go around them. Trust me, we are listening to all of us and continue to. If I didn't touch on feedback that you guys have presented, hit me up on DMs or go ahead and put it in a chat so we can talk more about it there. And please let me know because I would be happy to give you more information. Um, and as far as any like questions in regards to other things, please let me know and things like that. We'll be getting everything updated on white paper, roadmap, all that good stuff soon. So just stand by and wait for all of that there. And yeah, all right, guys. I hope all of you have a great rest of your day. Again, please message me with any questions that you have or submit any feedback. I already see that there's a few chat messages about things I haven't covered, so I'm going to reach out and put those things inside the chat. But yeah, all of you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming in. And we'll see you guys in the next Titan Talk on that. Bye, everybody.